Mira stood by the kitchen window, stirring the tea absently, watching the rain trace gentle lines down the glass. The clock struck 9:40 p.m., no message from Ravi. Again. He'd promised he'd be home early, but Mira knew better. Promises had turned into polite excuses, and dates into deafening silence. The space between them had grown so vast, it echoed even when they shared the same room. Ravi used to make her laugh, once upon a time. Now, his presence was felt more in his absence than in any loving word. Knock, knock, came a cheerful voice from the front door. Mira turned, surprised but smiling as she opened the door to see Arjun, Ravi's closest friend, holding 2 boxes of takeout. "I figured you'd be alone again," he said, almost too casually. "Hope you haven't eaten yet." She let him in, grateful for the warmth his presence brought. Arjun was easy to talk to, something Ravi had long forgotten how to be. The food wasn't fancy, just biryani and some naan, but the comfort of company made it feel like a feast. They talked about movies, poetry, silly memories from college. Mira laughed, a sound unfamiliar in her own home. And somewhere between the laughter and shared silences, a question lingered between them, unspoken. What happens when someone else gives you the attention your husband forgot to? Over the next few weeks, Arjun's visits became more frequent. At first, it was just coincidence. He said he was passing by, wanted to check if Ravi was around. But Ravi rarely was, and Arjun rarely seemed disappointed. Instead, he lingered in the kitchen with Mira, helping chop vegetables, brewing coffee, even fixing the broken latch on the window Ravi had promised to handle months ago. Mira noticed things, the way Arjun asked how her day was, and actually listened. The way he remembered her favorite tea, or how she liked her books shelved in color order. They didn't speak of loneliness. They didn't have to. She felt guilty, at first. But then came the realization. Ravi hadn't asked her about her day in over a year. One evening, while Ravi worked late again, Arjun brought over an old Hindi film they both loved. They curled up on the couch, laughter bursting between them as the scenes played out. "It's like nothing's changed," Arjun said softly, watching her laugh. "You still light up the same way." Mira looked at him, surprised by the warmth in his eyes. "And you," she said, "still make people feel seen." There was a long pause. The movie continued in the background, unnoticed now. She didn't move when Arjun gently reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. And she didn't stop him when he leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. That night, Mira sat in bed long after Arjun had left. Her thoughts were a storm. She didn't want to betray Ravi, or herself. But hadn't the betrayal already begun with his indifference? A year of silence, of empty dinners and cold shoulders. Of her reaching for a man who always had a meeting, a call, a reason to look the other way. With Arjun, she felt human again. Seen. Desired. What started as accidental closeness turned intentional. A touch on the hand became a brush of lips. A dinner turned into breakfasts. Then sleepovers. Innocent at first, Arjun crashing on the couch after too many drinks. Then, eventually, not so innocent. They made no promises. They just stopped pretending. Mira didn't tell Arjun she loved him. He didn't ask. Their connection was quiet, almost sacred. She cooked for him. He brought her flowers. They laughed. They kissed. They made love. And they mourned, quietly, the version of themselves that had stayed silent too long. But secrets rot in silence. It happened on a Thursday. Ravi's meeting was cancelled, and for the first time in months, he came home early. He opened the door quietly, planning to surprise Mira with dinner. Maybe even apologize. He'd been thinking about how distant they'd grown. Maybe he still loved her. Maybe there was still time. What he saw as he stepped into the hallway shattered that hope. The house was filled with the smell of fresh parathas. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Then, silence, followed by a voice. Mira's. Then Arjun's. Ravi walked in, and there they were. Arjun leaning against the kitchen counter, Mira standing close, her hand on his chest. It was unmistakable. For a moment, no one moved. Arjun straightened, guilt spreading over his face like spilled ink. Mira turned slowly, eyes wide, not in shame, but sadness. "Ravi," she whispered. "You're home early." Ravi dropped the takeout bag. The sound was small, but it cracked the air open like a thunderclap. "How long?" he asked. Mira didn't answer. Arjun spoke. "Ravi, I didn't mean for this to happen." Ravi let out a bitter laugh. "You didn't mean to fall into my wife's bed?" "Don't," Mira said sharply, stepping between them. "Don't reduce this to that. This didn't happen in a night. And that makes it better?" Ravi snapped. "You planned it then?" "No," Mira said. "I needed something. You just weren't here to notice." That night was long. Voices were raised. Accusations flew. But under it all, the truth stood quietly between them. Undeniable. Ravi sat at the edge of the couch, head in hands. Mira stood at the kitchen table, tears dried on her cheeks. Arjun had left hours ago after a brief apology. "You could have told me," Ravi said at last, "that you were unhappy." "I did," she said. "Every day. In the way I waited for you to come home. In the dinners I made that went cold. In the silence I filled alone. You just didn't hear me." He looked at her, really looked, for the first time in what felt like years. And he saw it. Not just the guilt. The pain. The longing. The woman he had married was still there, just not waiting anymore. "I didn't mean to lose you," he said softly. "You didn't lose me to him," she replied. "You lost me to silence." He didn't answer. After a long pause, she asked the question neither of them thought they'd face. "What do you want now?" He was quiet. "I don't know," he said. "But I can't pretend this didn't happen." She nodded. "Neither can I." Days passed. Then a week. They spoke in small doses, civil, quiet, but honest. When Ravi asked if she still saw Arjun, she nodded. She didn't lie anymore. One evening, Ravi came home, sat across from her, and said, "I can't love you the way you need, but I can respect the fact that he does." Mira's eyes welled up. "I'm not giving you permission," Ravi added. "I'm just letting go." Their separation wasn't loud or angry. It was quiet, like their marriage had been for years. Mira moved out a month later, gently and without drama. Ravi helped her pack. She and Arjun didn't move in together right away. They weren't in a hurry. What they had didn't need to be rushed. They had learned from the pain and the patience. And Ravi? He began to reclaim parts of himself too. He started seeing a therapist, reconnecting with family, making peace with the version of himself he had ignored for too long. Love didn't die in that house, it just changed shape. Sometimes, the bravest thing isn't holding on. It's knowing when to let